Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. What you're looking at is a test version of a project. It's very rare for me. I very rarely do test versions of anything. I just launch. But this is a project I'm creating for a very special end of year blog post over on the PaperArtsy blog. At the point you're watching this, it will already be out. So I will link to that blog post. And that blog post is celebrating or kind of looking back over the designs that I've released this year, both stamps and stencils with PaperArtsy. I couldn't believe it when I did the maths. My first stencils only came out at the beginning of 2025. It feels like the stencils have been around forever, but it's true. So stamps and stencils. And part of that blog post is to create a project which combines some of those stamps and stencil sets from across the year. And I had the idea, given that we've had some spring ones, we've had summer ones, we've had autumn ones, but I haven't really done any specific winter/festive stamps this year. But it seemed to me that one of the things I was talking about, particularly with the October release, was multi-seasonality. And I thought, I think I've got, in amongst what I've released, spring, summer, autumn, stencils from across the year, I think I've got the makings of a pretty good Christmas garland. And so I had a little play just on a sheet of watercolour paper to see what I could do. I haven't glued down these flowers because I'm saving them for the main thing. But that is layers of stenciling and stamping. And I've got some ideas for some other things I want to add. So this isn't a finished version. I just needed to see that the idea was going to work before I set off into it. And the place I want to do it, I think, is in the ledger journal. So I have gessoed the page. In fact, I didn't gesso. I used PaperArtsy Snowflake Fresco paint just in a watery wash to, again, just knock back the yellowness of these pages. And I've given myself a very loose sort of twiggy framework, just with a pencil round and round and round in that still wet paint, so that I've got something to anchor my stenciling. And then I thought, well, since I've got to now make it, that maybe what I would do is share that process with you so that you can watch those layering up. You will be watching this, I think probably on the 27th of December. So it really is an end of year roundup, but also still beautifully wintry, festive, all of those things, because I will be on the 27th of December, just at the very beginning of my favourite part of the year, which is the 12 days of Christmas, through from the 24th to the 6th of January. So I'm afraid if you're one of those people who tears everything down on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, I'm the opposite of you. Things don't kick off Christmas tree wise until just before Christmas itself. And then one of the joys is keeping that tree up until the 6th of January. And in fact, sometimes these days, because it's wonderful to have those Christmas lights into the darkest point of the year, we do now keep it up until the second date you're allowed to take it down, February. I mean, come on, I'm I'm not hugely faith-based. I have Jewish heritage, and but the Christmas tree, the bringing of greenery into the house, predates pretty much all religions. So why not have beautiful festive greenery? Why not have Christmas lights for as long as humanly possible? So if that tree lasts, it stays. In any case, I'm still celebrating with festive greenery, even on the 27th of December. And it's the time when I feel most Christmassy, in fact. It's why I find it hard to start Christmas before December, or Christmas making, or any of that business. So I'm going to start building these layers. Because I'm making this project for the blog post, so I'm making it earlier than you're watching it, clearly, I am going to pause occasionally so that I can take photos, process photos for that blog post. So this might stop and start a little bit, is all I'm saying. Right, I'm going to go in to start with, some of this ivy. So this is the larger ivy stencil, and I'm going to start with some peeled paint distress ink, just getting some of this leafiness around the circles. So I'm using this as a shaping, but we're gonna, as you saw, we're gonna build layers. So it'll be slightly trial and error for me to find out how much I want. And one of the things with this ivy stencil for me is I love it just in its sort of, as it were, naked form like this. But just watch what happens in a minute when I bring in a little bit of darker green as well to to create a really beautiful airbrushed look on these. So I'm going to just quite loosely, I like these leaves fading in and out, and as you saw, there are going to be lots and lots of layers over the top of them, so there's really no need for absolute precision at this stage, although that was unhelpful. And I want this to be quite a sort of loose and open garland. I can of course flip the stencil the other way up if I want something to flick outwards, or to go around this circle in a really beautiful, precise way. You can stencil through from either side so that you can have things going every which way you like. Let's have another of these big ones in here. Maybe sort of poking out in that direction, because I quite like that there. So I don't want to be completely round about this. I like my garlands sort of loose and soft and flowy. Let's have maybe you, or maybe we will go, is that the flat one? So the fun of this is going to be in a minute when I try to come back over the top and can't remember which way up things want to be. That's looking pretty good, don't you think? Maybe another little extra bit heading off here, just a little sort of soft sprig of ivy heading out there. And I do want to just fill up these spaces so that I've got a good basic wreath ready to take everything else that's going to come. Let's send you down there. A little bit of leafiness. Oh, it's just fun looking for the spaces and filling them up, creating that. So now what I'm going to do is, I think I need to flip that way again. Which one are you? You're this one. Yes, you are. Are you? Okay, so I've worked out where this one lines up, because I remembered I did the big one first of all. So it's there, and you'll see that moment where it suddenly pops into focus, and you go, oh yes, that's where I am. And then I'm going to take the tiniest bit of Rustic Wilderness. I'm using the same blending tool. I'm probably just going to use this blending tool for everything I do. I've gone over the edge of the stencil there a little bit, but because I'm on Distress ink, I will be able to. And I just love how this creates an extra dimension. So if it's gone over the edge there, because we're still on Distress ink, because that's water reactive, there's absolutely no problem with just knocking that away. So let's come back in, and again I want to go just a tad darker. I'm always a little bit wary of Rustic Wilderness because it is so strongly pigmented. So I knocked a bit off on the mat, but I knocked off a bit too much. So just coming in on some of those leaves, look what that does dimensionally. It's just a treat. I've zoomed in a bit, so I hope you can see what that's up to. And then if I go for another one somewhere around here, I think that's that stencil. Yeah, that's that branch. And again, just watch it pop into focus. And I'm just going to come in with a bit of depth onto a few of these leaves, just to create that lovely variation in colour. It makes me very happy. So I think you can see that sort of variation gives you something absolutely lovely. I'm just going to take that last little bit. Was it? What a game! What a game! Oh, I recognise you. No, that might have to be enough for adding the darks to those leaves. In any case, we've got so many more layers to go, but that's really fine. That's just ink on there. I could give it a spritz and print it off onto another tag, but I think for now I'm just going to wipe that off. It's not vital to wipe it off, except that if I was going to use something other than green next time round, I'd end up brushing some of that green into my work. So a quick spritz and you're done. Right, next stencil I think is probably going to be this beauty. So these are the pointy leaves that are actually designed as poppy leaves, because poppies do have these amazing sort of curvy leaves, but look at what a good fir branch that makes. And I think for this one I might go in with, I want the rustic wilderness, but I want the oxide version, not the ink version. Where is it? I had it, so it must be around. That's mowed lawn. Well, this is going to be fun, isn't it? It's Christmas chaos. Give me a moment and I'll find my rustic wilderness. Yeah, it was hiding under one of the others. What are you going to do? Are we fully on camera? Is that enough? Is that close enough? Yeah, it'll be fine. So these poppy leaves also make fabulous soft loose. I mean, it's a loose version of a fir branch, but we're going to get to more detailed versions of fir branches later. But that little sort of pointiness, and I love this one because it just kind of pokes out at a brilliant direction, and fills in a little gap in a beautiful way. So this is Rustic Wilderness Oxide I'm using now for this, so we're getting another shade of green coming in there. I might put a few of those just poking out here, just those two. So again, you can use as many of these. I'm not using that whole stem, I'm just getting a couple of nice soft fir branches. Oh, hello, why have you come off? Okay, if you're going to do that, I'll just go without the blending tool bit of it. Just go in with the sponge and then I'll glue it back on in a minute when I've done a bit more stenciling. Let's have one coming in from the top, maybe this one again. That's going to be nice at that angle, isn't it, up there? So let's put you coming in there. This is actually quite good on my fingers because I can really feel my way into the gaps. I might have another little pointy bit coming up here. And with some of them I'm re-inking the sponge to get a really inky full-on green. With some of them I'm just letting it be a little bit softer. Let's have maybe you sticking inwards. I want a couple coming inwards as well, because I want this space to also be full of festive life. And I really started to get quite carried away when I was doing my test version. I thought I'll just do a bit of stenciling and it'll be mostly stamping. And then I found that actually I was having such a good time with the stenciling and layering the stencils. I almost didn't want to put any stamping over the top of them. You see how this is building really rather beautifully. Very happy with that. Might have just a little bit more fir branch coming out, maybe there. So again, this is really a process of looking, seeing what you've got, layering, and because we're layering in distress ink, it's all still nice and soft and simple and easy. I'm going to have such green fingers ready for the garden. Green fingers growing things is a lovely thing. So I'm just giving that a little spritz. Just again, as I say, in case the next time I come back to this stencil, I don't want green going everywhere as I use it. I had a lovely time with the next one, which is my little leaves. This was from later in the year. I'm not going to try and remember which release everything was from. It's not possible. I think this was October, was it? The little leaves? Might have been summer. In any case, these little leaves, I'm going to use paint rather than ink. So this is Hyde Park, one of the lovely deep greens of the Fresco world. And just some little ones of these poking in and out just gave me a great deal of pleasure. I don't want full-on paint, so again, I'm using the matte to just soften what's going on the sponge, and just pop a couple of those into there. And you can see that's a sort of softer green. It's a cool green. I do love it. Let's have maybe that sprig going in this direction. And you'll be able to see why I got so obsessed with with the stenciling process. So I was just having such a lovely time seeing how these, both how the greens interact, but also how the stencils interact with one another. Let's have some of these happening in this direction. Might need a bit more paint on there in a second. I think I want one going, got one going upwards there, so maybe I want one going outwards here. Let's see what we get. And as I say, I want to stay quite loose with this. But there's something quite nice about alternating between the inks and the paints, just because it does give you a slightly different texture. I think I was a bit darker with my application on the test version, so I'm going to come back in. Come on, Hyde Park, out you come. This is a semi-opaque, so it's not a full-on opaque paint, the Hyde Park, which means that you do get a slightly more, I suppose, inky look from it. Watch that moment when the stencil pops and says, yeah, you're lined up. But if it's not quite lined up, then what you'll get is a sort of dropped shadow effect, which is also nice. Ah, that's it. Just that slightly darker. There it is. That's what I'm after. And which one were you? You were sort of halfway down. I see that. I managed to place and pop straight away. Much better. There we go. Nice and dark. Yeah, so it's just creating those variations. You were going off in that direction. And pop. Get a bit more of that green paint and build the layers. And then I think I want one somewhere down here, otherwise we're leaving it out. Let's have it coming upwards. Let's maybe use you. You're quite nice. Just in there, running out of paint on the mat again. There we go, just to get that shaping in. Yeah, I might want some more of those. I like them a lot. I like those little leaves. Really delicate. So there have been so many leafy foliage stencils this year. Variations always on a theme, the botanicals. It's, you know, Mother Nature does a good job. So following her lead is always going to make me happy. Was that one? Was that one? Maybe it was that. No, it was that. I just want to make this one a bit darker, but I think I might have to go with a whole new leafy version. There we go. That'll be fine. It's luscious layers of greenery we're creating. So who's going to mind? Let's have one going off maybe in that direction. So that's a good sideways one, just in there. I'm probably off camera, am I? Just on. That's nice. And then maybe one coming inwards. We haven't got any of these coming inwards, have we? So let's have one coming in here. That's lovely. And it makes me want one somewhere here. Nice. Good, okay, and having had trouble getting that green to come out, I've now got oodles of it on the mat. What a pity. Let's put one more here since we've got it. Nice dark bit of glossy green vegetation. And we can probably manage one more up here as well. Coming downwards, maybe you. There we go. And I'm definitely making this a mixed media page. So we've inked and we've used paint. I do quite like having the paint because that automatically gives me that little edge sometimes, depending on how you're applying it. That's all quite good, isn't it? Where else? I sort of want that one a bit more. Oh, I see, we flipped around. That's why I couldn't identify it. I want a bit more dark green up there while I've got it on the mat. I've flipped my sponge around now as well. Goodness, this is going to get messy. But it's all in a good cause, right? There we go. So it might be time for another photo. This is paint again. Paint is not going to impact the future use of the stencil unless it builds up to such a thickness that you can sort of see it getting into the edges of the design. but a little spritz of water never did anyone any harm. Time for another picture, and then we'll be back for a couple more layers. I might zoom out a little bit again so that you get the impression of the whole thing building. I'm now going to go with some of my berries. This was one of my first stencils, so this was definitely February, and I adore it. I'm going to use Mattint for this one, so this is River Deep, and as you'll know if you've watched any of my Mattint videos, Mattints give you a fabulous translucence, so there's a softness to this, and this was partly because this is quite a bold stencil, and again I was worried as I did my test version that it might be a bit much to have berries in my garland as well. Where do I want them? Let's have a look. Maybe heading off in this direction to start with. So again, I'm going to try and hit just sort of one stem of berry. In fact, I might do that little trio. I might just stick to the same sponge, you know. So let's make sure, well, except that's very green now. What else have we got? I've got this sponge. This is a natural sponge, so let's get some of that River Deep just into these berries. And as you'll know with Mattints, you can go with one very translucent layer, but as you go, you can build more depth of colour if you decide you want it. Let's have you three coming inwards here. But I think it's quite nice to have the subtlety of these berries, because as I say, they're quite strong berries. Oh, you're pretty. Let's have you coming out here. And then if I decided I want a bit more layering colour, I can go back in with another layer of the same Mattint to deepen the tone, or I can go with another colour and shift the tone of my berries. But I like the subtleness of this, partly because we've still got stamping to come. So if you've got too much bold stuff going on at this stage, that's going to make it very difficult for the stamps when they come in to make any kind of impact. So having just these soft berries, I think, is quite a nice element. Let's have you poking out that way. I mean, this is something I love doing in real life as well, with real greenery and real berries and real fronds. It's just creating a beautiful greenery decoration. If I could only have one decoration at Christmas, it would be the tree and greenery. Should we have one coming inwards? Maybe a little version like that, dangling into the middle of the wreath. There we go. So those are just a really soft little addition to what's going on. And I'm going to be able to stamp over the top of them without too much trouble. It's just creating a lovely, delicate blue tone to what's going on. I sort of want one over here as well. Again, coming inwards, keep those very soft and light. And maybe one going out. Let's have you. Nice. And that makes me want one over here somewhere as well, heading outwards, maybe those three little ones. Let's put a little more colour onto those, and a little more colour. It's pretty. It's pretty. Good. Again, I'm filming at this time of year. I'm afraid I've had to go with the artificial light again. So there are shadows. I've tried to minimise them by having lights coming from multiple directions. But there's only so much one can do. Grand. That's nice. And then one final little bit of stenciling that I couldn't resist were my grassy stems, because I adore them. And on those, I think I want something a little bit toothier, or maybe, ooh, maybe something bluish. Let's go broken china. Broken china for these grassy stems, because these have lovely detail. I think these must have been summertime, mustn't they? Do we think? I don't remember. If you go to the blog post, which, as I say, I will link below, you can look up exactly when all of these things appeared. There we are. Just that little bit of detail there is a treat to me. Let's have another one coming maybe in that direction, into the center a bit. I think that's going to be nice. So getting down into the detailed holes of that little grassy stem, that's pretty. Let's have maybe you coming inwards over here. So this one might be an all-time favorite for me. That little grassy stem, a real beauty. So I quite like him here as well, I think. So part of my plan that wasn't in the test version is also to have a little bit of ephemera stamping going on, maybe in the center of this circle. Obviously, at some point I'm going to want some words, because you know me and words. And those are also available on the stamp sets. But I haven't really thought about that bit. I've had a chance to have a think about these elements. Oh, it's just too tempting. This garland is just going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing outwards and outwards, because I just keep wanting to put more and more details in. I think we want one of these. So again, I'm going to aim for halfway down that stem, as opposed to the tip top bit again, so that I get some variation there coming out. I definitely want one heading up in this direction, so maybe you two would look nice coming out there, do you think? And I mean, broken china has always been a favorite distress color for me. It was one of the first distress, it was one of the original distress colors, and it was one of the first ones I owned, and I can't resist it. It's a joy of a colour. It just makes me happy. So that's a really delicious addition. Maybe one more. So tempting. I could keep layering up these greenery bits all day, as you can see. And let's have you coming downwards just next to that, because I think that's going to be nice in there. Just a little one of that. There it is. Hoo-hoo. Anywhere else? I hope you're all shouting at the screen, yes, it needs another one over here. I think it wants those two. So again, partway down the stem. Layered, as you can see, over the top of those berries. So one other thing I did do with the berries on my test version, and I think I'm tempted to do again, is just come in with a little touch of pen work, just to beef up. Let me zoom in for you. So just adding a little bit of additional detail to the tops of these berries. And it can also be quite fun to just put a little shadow line, a little sketchy shadow line, just for extra fun. Little top bits, and I'm literally scribbling a little scribble of a W almost, to just crown those. And I might come back in later with a bit of white dip pen to add, or white Fresco paint, to add a little bit of highlighting to make them nice and glossy. But we'll see. These are finessing details that may or may not end up taking place. But I think because we've got that lovely softness of the Mattint, it's quite nice to give those a bit more presence, like so. There we go. This is just a cheap aqua marker, I think. What are we? Art and Graphic Twin. No idea where I picked those up. Somewhere way back in time. Okay, since the next thing that's going to happen is some stamping, this is a good point to take a photo, I think, so that I know what I've got. That's where we've got to with 5 out of the 9 stencils released this year. Good grief. It's only when you look back that you discover what you've been up to over the course of the year, and yeah, it's a little bit astonishing to me. Time for some stamping, and I'm going to start with this lovely stem, which is from the October. So Twisted Umbels are going in, stamping let's see, what colour would we like this? I think, again, it would be nice to switch things up a little bit, but also to just echo what's been going on in the other things. So I did a little bit of sponging with peel paint very early on in the process, and I'd like to do a little bit of stamping with it now. Let's see, maybe, oh, I don't want too much stem in this because the stems just sort of stick out, and the key to a good garland is to tuck your stems in. I'm talking about real life now, but it works on the craft desk as well. So the stems are tucked in, and there's no way you'd see the end of the stem. Oh no, not that. What am I doing? Peeled paint. So peeled paint, when you stamp with it, actually turns out quite a different colour from peeled paint when you're sponging with it. It's got a lot more sort of precision to it and definition because we're now stamping. Let's see, maybe one coming inwards or curling downwards. Oh, that could be good. Yes, that's nice. So you can see now what we're starting to get with the stamping. We get a lot more detail. So layering it right over the top of a stenciled bit, you've got that lovely soft airbrushed look behind. You're getting something, I'm just going with the top bit of that. So again, you don't have to stamp with the whole stem. In fact, I might come off the board now and just do a bit of just soft, loose, freehand stamping. So I'm just getting occasional leaves. Might go with the bottom of it there. So it's not always the same shape that's being stamped. This at the moment, I can see looks a bit too much, but I have, of course, got an ace up my sleeve, which is going to be florals later on. So we can disguise anything. If you sort of end up with something you sort of think, oh, I've overdone it there, that might be the spot that in the long run you might want to put some flowers. So we'll come to talking about the flowers and what the role they're playing, because that's a whole other ball game. Where else do we want one of these? Maybe coming up the middle there. That's nice. Just a delicate secondary stamping, actually, that was. Maybe one coming out. Sort of feel like I want something there. Although I've got lots more to come. As I said, this garland is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Good, so that's starting to give us really nice detail. And I might bring one round in within the ivy there, just to give that ivy a bit more definition. Might do the same thing sort of in here. So we're just creating a visual shortcut to stems and detail. I love what that does to increase the level of detail in what's going on. It's just a joyous way to play. And you may have thought, well, the ones we won't see in this are going to be the spring stamps. There's no way she's going to use spring. But I had a look at my lavender, and of course one of the reasons I kept the lavender foliage separate from the stems was because I thought, well, that could make quite a nice fir branch. So I was thinking this could be a sort of silvery fir branch. I might do something like, maybe oxide iced spruce. What do you think? Again, I don't think I want the full threesome. So inking up doesn't feel like anything's happening. I'm just going to check the colour of this because I can't quite remember what an iced spruce stamp is. Quite grey, isn't it? What about maybe, well, I mean, that might be quite nice to have something that's different from everything else that's going on. Let's see, let's be subtle with it to start with, so that if we change our minds, we might be able to get rid of it. Going to have just a little bit. Okay, don't want to go too near to my other spiky branches, but I could try having some just curling out maybe here in sort of a subtle little way. Yeah, that's quite nice. And another one maybe coming through here. So not having it on the block allows me to just be quite precise about where I'm pressing down with my fingers. And at the moment, that's a sort of fairly subliminal stamping. I know you can't see much of it, but I think what it's doing again is giving us a rather nice, different look to some of our greenery. Let's have one come out here, support you, and let's maybe have one coming inwards. Oh, what about the top? Which one have I not used in this recent inking? The middle one, I think. Let's have you maybe doing that. So one of the reasons I think this could be interesting is if I now take something like a water brush and just come in, I can soften that branch. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, I'm going to zoom in for the next one so you can see that happen. Okay, so it's stamped in oxide, which only oxidizes when you add water. So you get this lovely silvery look. If I just go in with a water brush, I need to be careful because there's a lot of distress ink going on around here, those ivy leaves. I don't want to smudge them, but just by getting myself onto those branches, I can create a really soft feathered look. Where else did I stamp that one? Here. Am I on camera? Let's see. So as I come in, not only does that just soften, it also oxidizes and the whole colour becomes this magical silvery frond that is really rather good. I like that. Where else did I stamp one? Oh, over here there's a couple. So again, let's make sure it's on camera for that magical moment. I'm just following the needles with my water brush and just creating that lovely softness. One more here. So if you stamp in a distress ink, it doesn't need to stay as outline. You can just kind of colour it in with its own ink, as it were. So what I might want to do is grab a little photo with a bit of that stamping, or let's do one last bit of stamping before I do that. So the twisted leaves that have been very, very popular. Everybody's been enjoying those, but we do also have on there this lovely branchy thing. In the samples for the launch, in fact, I did do a little version of this and I embossed these in white to make them really frosty twigs. But on my test version just now, I stamped them in speckled egg and I absolutely loved them. Besides, I'm saving my white embossing for something else that isn't on the test version. So again, I'm working off grid block so that I can choose which bit to press down, but I'm just creating some little spriggy twigs that just create amazing detail. And because they're so subtle and delicate, I can put them pretty much everywhere and be happy. In a distance shot, you're probably almost not going to see them, but up close, they really are a treat because they give you that wonderful twiggy detail and twistiness, twisted leaves and twisted branches. So I'm having them coming outwards and going inwards, and I'm just enjoying their presence as a background twistiness. Whenever I create a garland on, oh, actually it's right here because I was showing it recently. So that was made with my festive minis. Oh, let's pull out. This twiggy garland that I made with my festive minis is on twigs. So that's a twig garland bought at a nursery centre, a garden centre. And so I do love a twiggy effect in wreaths, in garlands. So having these twiggy branches everywhere I go is a bit of a delight to me. They would also be great in white. I might go so far as to emboss a couple of them in white and add them to the mix. I want a little bit going upwards because our garland's kind of going off the page now. It's so big. And I want some coming up the middle here. So I'm sure actually as a distance shot that's not very impactful for you, but I'll pick the page up in a second and show you those twigs again. It's subtle on this background, but I think it's really worth it. The joy that I had when I added them on the plain paper. I mean, obviously doing this on plain paper is a whole other kettle of fish, but that makes me very happy. So now it is photo time because we've got some stamping in as well, and I'm going to come back for a little touch of white embossing. In preparation for white embossing, I have been giving this a good go with the heat gun, but it occurs to me that I could give it a bit more drying time if we do one more thing in the meantime while that's happening. So extra element is to have some flowers. Obviously, poppies. Where are my poppies? Poppies from the June release. Cosmos from the late summer, early autumn release are not necessarily Christmas flowers, though I have had Cosmos go on blooming well into November. But these are playing the role in this particular element of Christmas roses, so hellebores, and winter anemones. So I think that you can kind of get away with that. Or imagine you've got a hothouse and you are doing that instead. So as you can see, I stamped quite a few just so that I could experiment with shades and colours a little bit, but I landed fairly quickly on something that made me quite happy. So this is a Cosmos flower. I stamped in watering can archival, so just a soft grey. I don't really need the stem, actually, thinking about it, so no need to take up space with that. Because again, when you're creating your Christmas bouquets, you're not going to need the stems. The stems are going to be tucked in. This one is definitely poppy for me. These two, I feel like, can do quite a good job of pretending to be hellebore, or indeed winter anemone. I know winter anemones are smaller, but we do have the smaller versions of the Cosmos as well. So you've got that kind of variation. So one Cosmos and one summer poppy coming up. And again, I painted these with a combination of Mattints and paints, but again, you could use whatever you've got around. Watercolor pencils, distress watercolors, distress inks you can use, absolutely. But I kept it kind of light. I didn't want things to get too over the top, too full on. So a little bit of Fern came into play, a little bit of Mojito, because I can never resist a bit of Mojito as a colour. And then for shading on the petals, the absolutely perfect shadow, which gives you the perfect shadow on anything you're doing. But I also had a touch of shark in the mix because I rather wanted to tie in with the blues that are going on in our Christmas wreath. Again, I used a water brush just because I find that quite helpful, even with the Mattints, which are so translucent. I just find the control of this water brush quite helpful. So this twistiness that I've been exploring all year is here in these petals, and so a little bit of shading, a little bit of shadow is one of the things that gives us that lovely impression of twistiness, of depth, of things going in all kinds of directions. And then for the center, I found lots of pictures, lovely pictures of white hellebores online with these sort of beautiful green centers. There are some with golden centers and yellow centers, and there are some with deep black and deep purple centers as well. Obviously that didn't tempt me. I, funnily enough, wasn't tempted by deep purple. Black. Purple, I have been known to go for a bit of purple. And then just because I wanted a little bit of golden highlighting, not necessarily to say we've got yellow flowers, but just to say there's a touch of warmth in this winter garland. This is vanilla, which is just a gorgeous, soft, creamy colour, and just a watery wash of that on a couple of petals I found quite pleasing. I might add a little bit more to these two here, because I think it just gives us something that's as I say, a lovely warmth to it, and B, will tie us in a little bit with the lovely golden feeling we've got in the background of the ledger journal. I might add a couple of bits of, and then I was also quite interested in adding a couple of darks for a bit more shading, a bit more depth right in the centre of those flowers, and also picking up those stamens gives us a bit more of a sort of hellebore look on those poppies, because hellebores do have quite extraordinary stamens, really full on. And then it was a matter of a bit of fussy cutting. But in that fussy cutting, what I also did was I went down into petals, right between petals. Actually, there's another one that could get a snip. So where I would usually probably leave that uncut, I've gone down because it's going to give me the chance to just create a bit of dimension as I shape those. I might cut a couple more of these so I've got options available, but that was the very simple painting of the flowers ready to go in, and that gives us a bit more. And you know, summer poppies and autumn cosmos ready to go onto our multi-seasonal garland. If you've watched the winter tapes episode, you'll know we've already had one fail on trying to white emboss my twisted Umbels, because things weren't dry enough, or the tapes themselves, I think, were sticky, was actually the problem, because it wasn't that it was sticking to individual inked elements, it was just a solid blanket of embossing powder. And I think that is because, as I say, with the heating of things we'd been doing, I think the masking tape itself had somehow become sticky. So I'm going to have another go at it, because I would really like to have white embossed twisted Umbels as part of my Christmas garland, because I think they're going to look like bursting snowflakes somehow. So again, I don't want all three of them. I'm going one at a time, so I've inked up just that one. And well, maybe I do want the extra power of the block behind it. Let's make sure the others aren't inked. And I'm hoping and praying that I have dried this sufficiently that if I stamp this over, I'm going to try and go over a fairly green area. Oh, I need more support under here. Can I get a finger under? That's because of the hinge of the book. Okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's get the white embossing powder on. If this doesn't work, I'm just going to have to wipe all the embossing powder off, because I don't want a big solid lump of white in the middle of my beautiful garland. I think we might be all right. Look, I think we've got what we need. Phew. Let's not knock over the embossing powder like happened last time. Let's get that back in its pot. So that's the opaque bright white from Wow. And let me just have a look and see if I can see what we've hit. There is a little bit on this green branch, and there's some sort of stem coming down. Oh, I think that, well, that may be the umbel stem. And if I don't want that, which I think I don't, I'm just going to knock out that little bit because I'd rather that was green. Going to knock out that little stem because I'd rather that was green. Let me see what else we've got. Oh yes, look, it has still caught quite a lot. Now I'm looking in the proper light. But that looks like it's maybe all right. What I don't want is a solid block of white powder, and I don't think that's what I've got. I think other than those bits that I've just brushed away, I've got a reasonably decent sparkly white umbel. Let's see, shall we? Fingers crossed. Again, if push comes to shove, I can always just stick a flower over it. I don't really want to do that. I want some iced, twisted, frosted umbels is what I want. Let's see, here it comes. I can see the melting point is starting to hit. Yes, that'll do me. nice. And it's just to have that little bit of magic iciness in the midst of everything else. And it works rather beautifully, obviously, on this warm gold of the background. So let's risk another, shall we? Do I want the same one again? Or let's see, I'm doing my counting. I've sort of identified for my Christmas roses, my fake Christmas roses, I've identified kind of 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So I think these are going to be sort of 11 and 3:30, 4-ish, and 7. I think should be quite nice. 2, 4, and 7 is good. I might go for that same one because it's got a lovely roundness to it. Or that one going sideways. Let's see, how will you look? No, I think it might be you again. I think you're good. So let's ink you up again. And I might go for another little blast of heat around here to see if I can dry things again. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get you in there. Okay, and embossing powder. Heart in mouth. Tip off the embossing powder. Let's see what it's caught. Okay, so it looks as though it's caught some of this branch here, but maybe not too much. It's caught round again on that stamping. It's a little bit on the branches there. Let's go in and what do we think? Trying to catch it in the light and see what we've got. I think we're probably good to go with what's left there and hope for the best. So I'll emboss that. I'll try and do one more, and then I'll come back for the positioning of the other flowers, our fake hellebores, and maybe a little bit of final ephemera and word stamping. I'm very happy with that. That little touch of sparkling white umbel amidst the greenery is a little touch of magic, I think. That one was a much thicker version. Don't know quite how that happened. Maybe I applied the ink more thickly. But that it's all good. So I've got those at 4 and 7 and 11. So as I thought, I think I'm going to go for something like 2. And where's my big cosmos gone? Is it you? Yeah, and 5 and maybe 10, sort of 10:30. So I've got that lovely spacing of things. Don't mind that one's closer to that. That's good, so that we've got random spacing of our white elements. Maybe I do want another, and if I layer it up so that it's going in another direction, and I might also put a couple more dots of dark into the center of that one, just to create a bit more depth. If it's behind, it's kind of fine. Seem to be missing a cosmos. I might have to go flower hunting, and in the meantime I shall also have a look to see if I can find some words that I might want to use, and maybe a little bit of delicate ephemera stamping. Let's, ooh, yes, happy. I've laid out my 3 main flower clusters, and I'm sort of toying with having an extra little trio in place as well. I'm not gluing anything down just yet because I just want to have a little play with adding maybe a touch of ephemera stamping subtly. It's going to be really subtle, kind of tone on tone, either pale grey, or I'm wondering about speckled egg actually, just because I like the idea of a little bit of geometric shaping within all this wild organic. Yeah, that little square element just makes me happy having that variation in amongst all this, as I say, wild, chaotic, it just gives me a bit of grounding. So I'm gonna take just a, in fact, maybe not this one again. So this is off the advertising edition, which was in the summer. They're amazing as pieces of ephemera, so stamping them on something separate, but I do also really like them as background stamping. This one obviously has got a bit more presence to it because it's got solid lettering, and I might sort of pretend that we're in a photographic studio and just have one of those down there. See, that makes me happy. Maybe a little double. That's good. Sort of want to echo it up here because I'm enjoying it. It's those little sort of vintage touches that can just shift a page from being airy-fairy, wild organic into something really quite interesting. And then I also love this alphabet we've got. So it's another spring stamp. And I might go again with a bit of speckled egg because I'm quite enjoying that colour tone. Just peel in and out a little bit of alphabet stamping. Just again for that touch of something individual. I'm going to add it to those photograph ones there and up there. And I know there's already text in the background on the ledger journal pages, but this is just waking things up for me. Again, I know that on your distant view, because I'm stamping in such a pale colour, so this is the speckled egg archival formulation into an archival ink pad. So using the re-inker, I'm going to lift that up and try not to move the flowers as I go. So just to show you how that text just gives us something else, and soft stamping of those, and then that little geometric corner anchoring things a little bit. There's another stamp that I really love that I might quite like to squeeze in. Is this little reference one on the twisted Umbels. Do love this. So let's go again for speckled egg because it's working quite well, isn't it? And you'll notice I'm not mounting these up because I don't want a perfect stamping of them, quite apart from anything else. I just want them to hover almost subliminally in the background. Don't want too much from them. I think I must have had something green on here because it's coming out much greener than the other things I've stamped with the speckled egg. That's nice. And then if you feel like it's gone too far, which part of my brain is sort of thinking now, just a touch of something like Snowflake to knock it back a little bit if there are places where, so for instance, that one is a bit too solid for my liking. Let's get a bit of Snowflake onto the mat, because you know what I'm going to want to do in any case is a little bit of spatter. And I was also thinking of giving my berries a little white dot of life, wasn't I? So I might go in and do just a little berry shading like so to catch the light first of all. Partly because that pen work slightly offending my eye because the pen was such a thick nib, much stronger than I expected it was going to come out. So I'm just going to soften a little bit of the pen work and then add in little dots of light to my berries. Give them a bit of shine, another bit of detail. For the joy of it, really. It's not necessary. It's delightful. And delight is going to be important, I think, in 2026. It's been important in 2025. So that's just catching the light on those berries in quite a nice way. I'm going to use a bit of that to just soften some of this stamping where it's been a bit too much. So I quite like to soften that little edge there. Might quite like to soften that little edge there. Quite happy with what's going on up here. And then I might as well use what's left over on the mat here. I am aware I haven't glued down the flowers yet. I'm on it. I'm on it. So let's get this into action and just go for a little bit of snowy, wintry highlighting to make things dance. I'll go across the centre as well. No idea how long this has taken. I've been enjoying myself. Might be another super long episode. But there's been so much festive joy in creating these layers of greenery, and nature joy, bio, organic, celebration of nature, which I hope is what all year my stamps and my stencils have been. I'm going to glue down these flowers, maybe twist up those petals for even a bit more dimension. Yes, I know every time I close the book they're going to squidge down a little bit, but they won't squidge completely unless I shove it hard into the shelf. So I think that's worth it. I'm thinking about word stamping. You're just going to have to wait for the close-up to see if I do any. Thanks, as always, for your company. Take a look at the full blog post over at the PaperArtsy blog for more details of all the stamps and stencils and other projects that have been created with them, not only by me, but by the amazing PaperArtsy bloggers, designing all year for your pleasure. And do check out the other end-of-year roundups from the other designers, because if nothing else, just take a look at the variety of designs and styles of stamps. If you don't know the other things that PaperArtsy does, if you're a Alison Bomber through and through, take a look at the other things that are available at PaperArtsy and the other designers' work, because it is an astonishing breadth. There really is something for everyone. Look at these fingers. Green fingers for gardening, inky fingers, painty fingers, always the sign of a good time. Thank you so much for your company, for your support this year. It's been an incredible year. And there's even more in store for 2026. I can't wait to share with you all the adventures that are going on throughout the year. Happy crafting and Happy New Year all.